Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Giribharatari Gopichana Vallabha Giribharatari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giribharatari Gopi Janavallabha Giribharatari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Giribharatari Gopichana Vallabha Giribharatari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare, Jaya Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vishnu Vidai Krishna Vishnai Bhutane Shivani Satra Das Goswami Nityanamane Namo Vishnu Vidai Krishna Vishnai Bhutane Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. So today we're on the amazing section on the prayers of Queen Kunti. We're still in today's verses. There's two verses 2 and 3, chapter 8. We're still kind of on the previous chapter. It's just we're kind of summing up. And next we're going to have Krishna talking to Queen Kunti, which is an amazing section as well. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, text number 2 and 3. So I'll just try to do the Sanskrit here. Te nini-yodakam sarve vilapya cha bhishampuna apluta haripadabja rajaputa sarijale. And then I'll do the next one. Oh, yeah. Tata sinam kurupatim titarastram sahanujam gandharim putasokatam pritam kshishnam chamadava. So translation and purport, translations and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganga water, they bathed in the Ganga, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. Next translation. There sat the king of the Kurus, Maharaj Yudhishthir, along with his younger brothers and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. Lord Krishna was also there. The Battle of Kurukshetra was fought between family members, and thus all affected persons were also family members, like Maharaj Yudhishthir and brothers, Kunti, Draupadi, Subhadra, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and her daughters-in-law, etc. All the principal dead bodies were in some way or other related with each other, and therefore the family grief was combined. Lord Krishna was also one of them, as a cousin of the Pandavas, a nephew of Kunti, as well as brother of Subhadra, etc. The Lord, therefore, was equally sympathetic toward all of them, and therefore he began to pacify them befittingly. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. The first thing Sanatana Govindadas gave us a very good explanation of the Ganga River, very nicely done, and I won't go over that except to maybe listen to the class again, because it was very informative and very very to the point. But there was one thing that's mentioned here. They lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganga water, and then they bathed in the Ganga, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. So I just thought about, there was three very auspicious things, of course, is the dust, and this is the dust of the Lord, but the dust of the lotus feet of the devotee, the water in which the devotee's feet are bathed, and the prasadam, the prasadam remnants of the devotees. These are all very powerful substances, it's explained. Fortunately, I kind of come from a culture where those things are not really very well established or presented really at all. It was never considered in my upbringing about, how dust from somebody's feet would be of importance, or whether when somebody's washing their feet, then that people would be interested in putting the water on their head. It just never happened. And prasadam, as regards eating the remains of someone else's food, that was kind of pretty much a no-no as well. So when I came to Krishna consciousness, it was, I remember being, people trying to touch each other's lotus feet it was a little strange at the beginning, but because everybody was doing it, I partook in that. Bathing the lotus feet of the devotee. I remember when the time of the zonal guru, when the spiritual master came and we washed his feet on some occasions. Again, that was not something, even among the association of devotees, that was done with ease, and even in some occasions, some of the devotees whose feet were being bathed weren't that much at ease either. So not a very nice instance. I remember one time that we were all fighting over the remnants of the prasadam of one sannyasi who was visiting, and a little while later we heard that the sannyasi fell away, and I don't know whether that was going to have any effect on what we were eating at the time. I'm sure it wasn't, and our intentions were right, but that one definitely became a very positive one. People wanted to grab remnants, and that was fun actually. You're trying to grab prasadam off somebody else's plate. That became quite a, and still is to this day. Trying to grab the prasadam, and also subsequently I have kind of, whenever a devotee kind of passes by, sometimes I do kind of put my hand on the dust, and without them necessarily knowing that much about him. But I am kind of given to that. The reason I'm saying that actually is because the culture is actually very nice, and it is an important thing that to establish, if that culture could be established. And in that sense, we're always trying to establish educational places, or to train or to teach devotees, or young devotees, some of this culture, so that we can actually try to grow up in it, or try to develop it at least. It certainly beats the other culture, which is very much influenced by things like the internet. I went into a house recently. I was collecting some artwork from one of our artists, and his kids were nice. They were polite, but they wanted to get back into the room to get into their, I don't know what games were going in. But anyway, I had the joy to go into one of the rooms because one of the paintings was in there. And I have to say, what they were looking at on the TV, some game or other, it was so hyper real, so massively real. I just looked on the screen, and it was some kind of strange kind of robots were on the screen or something, or little dolls or something or other. But they were so alive, and the kids were 100% focused on it, and it made me shudder. I just kind of I kind of bounced back off the screen, well, metaphorically speaking, but the impression that it gave me was, wow, what is this next generation going to be if this is what they're influenced by? Like, there's no religion in schools. There's no there's no, as far as I can see, ostensibly anybody who talks about religion is completely dubbed as some sort of fool from a previous age or whatever. So the culture is very poor, very, very, very bad like that. So what is that culture going to produce? Anyway, I'm sure there's other very good things that are there from the. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on a whole group of individuals growing up at the moment, but still, it did affect me. So anyway, those three things, which we can establish as the dust from the lotus feet of the devotees, the water from which the feet are bathed, or to try to get the remnants of the prasadam. They're very powerful. Okay, another thing which I wanted to take from the purport, I actually had a class planned on a slightly different subject, but I actually left all my notes on that class. in work. And so what I wanted to do instead, and because I approached it again, and then some other thing actually hit me, which I thought was, oh yeah, this is also important. That shows you what Prabhupada's purports are like. They're everywhere you look at them, they're full of they're jewel like, there's a gem underneath everything. And so the particular one that I wanted to focus on was the one of the phrases Prabhupada's used in the purports about Krishna. And the Lord therefore was equally sympathetic toward all of them, and therefore he began to pacify them befittingly. So you can imagine this scene actually where Krishna is there with Gandhari. Now Gandhari is after cursing all of Krishna's families to be killed like her family. There's Dhritarashtra, who, because of his unbelievable obstinacy, was not prepared to be fair in the distribution of the kingdom, and was constantly doing everything in favor of his sons, and I mean, and using providence as an excuse, saying that this was, this is by providence. There's nothing. I feel like I'm being carried along. No, you didn't make the right decisions. That's basically the theme of the previous class, the class that I had prepared. But anyway, I won't go down there. But there was also, Kunti was there, Draupadi was there, and Subhadra's son was killed as well, just because by the activities of Dhritarashtra. And Krishna sent everybody to try to change Dhritarashtra, but it was all going on because of Leela. But I think one important point to note is that the examples that we are given are of Bhishma, of Arjuna. These are the examples we take from the Mahabharata. We don't necessarily take the example of Gandhari or Dhritarashtra, although at the end we take the example of Vidura, who brought them back. So Krishna's always there. But it got me thinking about as well, though, that the living entity who's in Dhritarashtra's bodies, in the Ashvatam, they are also Krishna's. They're Krishna's son, whatever. They're coming from Krishna. So Krishna is, and it says here, is equally disposed toward all of them. But that doesn't always seem to be the case. But so that, of course, got me thinking about where is that explained a little bit more fully. And does anybody know the verse, which I'm going to quote next? Samoham sarva bhuteshu. Samo, I'm the same. Sarva bhuteshu, towards every living entity. It is in 9:29. And this is a particularly interesting verse. I'll just read it here. I envy no one. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshu stinapriya ye bhajanti tamam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. So that fits with everything that we said in the purport. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So therefore, there is a different category within that. If one chooses to be alert or awake to Krishna consciousness, or awake to his or her relationship with Krishna within, then Krishna is a friend to that person. And so then there's a whole new set of circumstances occur because of that. So then what does that behoove us to do? That behooves us then to establish a personal relationship with Krishna within. And that relationship happens to be the most important relationship. It's more important than any other relationship. Because if we have that relationship with Krishna within, then we'll have that relationship with everybody else. That these are these other people, just like I'm another to another person, that they are Krishna's people. And if we associate with devotees, then we are in that really special category, because you're associating with people who are developing that relationship with Krishna within, and Krishna is reciprocating with the devotees, because he's within both the devotees, and he wants the devotees to reciprocate with each other. I think I'll read some of the purport, because Prabhupada really, really, really makes this beautiful in the way Prabhupada presents it, because he makes it really clear. Because there's so often there's a tendency to be fuzzy about things. Well, in my case anyway, but it's great when you hear how Prabhupada presents it. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental service? But this is not discrimination. It is natural. That's the first thing Prabhupada says. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son. And so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain over all, regardless of whether it falls on the rock, on land, or water. But for his devotee, he gives specific attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness. So that's the first criterion. If we want that special relationship with Krishna, if we want that relationship, if we really want that, then we have to be situated in Krishna. The very phrase Krishna consciousness suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, Maite, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is the reciprocation. This also explains the words, Ye yata mam papadyante tamstataiva bhajamnyaham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionally I take care of him. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. So, when a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. I'll just get on to that. That's the next one we're going to get into. Prabhupada is talking about the diamond and the gold. But first I want to establish the fact that the devotee has that relationship with Krishna within. And I would also want to address another point here, that it's not that it's just exclusive to the Hare Krishna movement that Krishna is reciprocating within with the devotee. He's reciprocating within with devotees in different spiritual systems. In fact, our Krishna Anandini said that because she has a lot of experience in that area, sometimes she sees that people are even more dependent on Krishna and Krishna conscious than sometimes she sees herself or, members with our philosophy. Because Krishna is not sectarian. He reciprocates this way with anyone who surrenders unto him. And life is meant, Krishna gives us this life so as we can actually surrender unto him. There is nothing that we are experiencing at this time, not one iota, which we are not meant to experience, so that Krishna can bring us closer to him. Everything that we undergo in this world, in this situation, is meant so that we can become closer to him. Every relationship that we have, everyone is there specifically with that in mind. It's not as if Krishna made some mistake anywhere along the line. No, he's not. There's no mistakes here. It's all happening for a reason. So we have to become Krishna conscious so that we can find out what that reason is. The reason that I'm bringing that up is because one item which will prevent that pure relationship from developing is the mind. We know that Prahlad Maharaj states, and I don't have the actual Sanskrit for what he states, but there is no enemy except the uncontrollable mind. That is the only enemy, basically. There's no one else is doing anything to you. You know, you are the cause of your own misfortunes. It's not anybody else. That is how we see these things. That is the vision that we're meant to develop. It's not to say that we don't try to affect some change in this world. No, that's not what's being said. But at the same time, the measure of what you're receiving is the measure that you're meant to get. Krishna's not like some crazy physician who's trying this out and trying that out. Krishna knows exactly what we need in order for us to become purified. We don't know what we have performed in our previous lifetimes. And we can only kind of sometimes get some inclination of how entangled we are in this lifetime. We only get some inclination of it. I mean, if we were to see how entangled we were, we probably would not want to see it. Krishna's arranged it that we don't have to. But we probably would say, my God, if I was as bad as that, I actually deserve a lot worse. If I was so bad, if I did that to that person, if I did that here, then I should suffer 1,000,000 times more than my so-called suffering now. And what is it? It's in a very temporary life. It's only very, very temporary life. It goes very, very, very quickly. So I've just wanted to kind of establish that situation, that it is incumbent on us to develop that relationship and not let the uncontrollable mind get in the way, because we're just inches away. We're inches away from having a very beautiful reciprocal relationship with Krishna in bhakti, in devotional service. We're actually, in our day-by-day activities, we're inches away. Because we're distracted by something, our mind is telling us this, we're motivated, karma's coming, the three modes of nature. But we are close, so close, especially when we've taken this path of devotional service. As bad as we think we are, we're actually all the way there almost, you know. So I thought this example Prabhupada uses here is phenomenal, of course. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified. And here's the example. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. And when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. So that's the example of the gold. He looks like gold when he becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is a diamond. And so this combination is very nice. So that's what Prabhupada is offering to us. He's offering us the opportunity to be gold-like from our iron-like state, from our iron-like heart, from our unbelievably bad conditioning. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme and the living entity. But in the personalist philosophy, there is. So everything is personal. So again, how do we stay, or how do we get to that situation? I mean, I'm listening to devotees giving talks a lot of more and more of late, and they're all wanting us to get into that bhakti relationship with Krishna, because they want us in this situation. We see that Prabhupada has set up the movement for us to reciprocate like that. And the next part I'd like to explore is another section that I'm working on the Bhagavatam, how this reciprocation can be absolutely electric, can be mind-blowingly I don't know what word you would use, but extremely enlivening. It's extremely enlivening. It's when you get in touch with Krishna, the sky is the limit. There's nothing like it. This is what we're trying to. I know I've been as a devotee and as an aspiring spiritualist in my own life. I really wanted to know what it is, who I am and what am I doing here, and what's the reason for this, and going through so many different phases in my life, even before I came to Krishna consciousness, trying to understand it from a Buddhist point of view, sitting down, meditating, trying to get to what is this about, and trying to engage in social activities with many people, and not necessarily getting the reciprocation I was expecting, trying to get on in the world, not getting the reciprocation I was expecting, but then eventually coming to Krishna consciousness and getting an immediate reciprocation from association with pure devotees, and the reciprocation being sufficient to keep me studying away here 40 years later, even despite the lack of progress. But I still find it electric. It still is incredible, even from the glimpses, and especially when I read purports, which I'm going to read quite soon. But I want to finish this purport, because this Prabhupada really finalizes this point about the devotee, Krishna's reciprocation with the devotee. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. Brilliant. Thank you, Prabhupada. The more complete explanation. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the laws of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service to the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. So, it's not according to the laws of the material world. It's a special relationship. It's completely apart. It's set apart. That's what Prabhupada is saying. That we go to that special relationship with Krishna, and it's a completely different laws going on there. And that's why we understand that this is what the mercy is. Krishna is only wanting to give this mercy. And there's a bit in the every morning in Tulsi, it's in Tulsi Arti, it's in the songbook that I read, and it talks about Tulsi actually arranging things in the spiritual world. Tulsi is like she's the person who actually arranges these reciprocations in the spiritual world. And we've been talking a lot recently about who is the person who's acting, who am I, and so on. But if we take this literally, or if we take this spiritually, we are spirit soul, and we have a special relationship with Krishna. So therefore, in that special relationship, the divine energy comes and then and inspires us to act in a certain way with Krishna, because she's always arranging all these different things in the spiritual world for reciprocation with Krishna. That is what the internal energy does. So we're trying to get involved in that internal energy. So Krishna then gives us this identity by which we act in the spiritual world, and we're trying to manifest this identity here in the material world. Jivan mukta sa uchyate, iha yasya harer dasa. Anyway, the second line, and nikala savi avasa so jivan mukta sa uchyate. Actually, I want to say that verse because such a beautiful one. If I can find it, I can say the Sanskrit of it. He engages his body, minds, words. Oh, it's just this is another explanation I have here, but that verse, it says that we can be transcendental even in this material world, and that is our identity, because we'll be under the influence of the internal energy and not the dreaded external energy. So so anyway, that's what Prabhupada is saying here, and that's the beauty that we're taking from that. That is the reciprocation that's there. That is why it is incumbent upon us to become devotees, so that we can achieve this position. But now let me get on to another section. This is in the Bhagavatam. It's in the prayers of the Pachetas. This is Narada instructs. No, sorry, no. This is the prayers of the Pachetas, and it is the activities of the Pachetas, and there's this particular section just before Maitreya asks a question. I'm pretty sure it's Narada who's speaking here, but now listen to this purport. Listen to this verse in purport, because this is the most liberating verse that you can imagine. We may not be on this platform, but to know that this platform exists and that we can get on this platform, that's what Prabhupada wants us to go to, wants us to be in. Always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the super soul within the heart of the devotee, makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahman position by the advocates of the absolute truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahmabhuta, one is never bewildered, nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahmabhuta situation. So Krishna within is constantly giving us this ever increasingly fresh and new in all our activities. So if we're not in that situation, if we're feeling stagnant, this is a word that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj used to use constantly, stagnation, because he went around and he went to communities and he saw this stagnation, and he constantly saw what was going on, and he actually practically dedicated the rest of his life to try to establish communities and to remove this stagnation. Now listen to what Prabhupada says in the purport. A devotee is inspired by the super soul within the heart to advance in devotional service in a variety of ways. The devotee does not feel hackneyed or stereotyped, nor does he feel that he is in a stagnant position. So where did Bhakti Tirtha get it from? It's from Prabhupada. Stagnancy. In the material world, if one engages in chanting material name, he will feel tired after chanting a few times. However, one can chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all day and night and never feel tired. As chanting is increased, it will come out new and fresh. So if we're feeling that in our chanting, we'll know that we're on the path. We're getting there. We're in the right situation. We're in the right plight. Right? And if we're not, then we have to examine ourselves. We have to take out the old scalpel and cut out the crap that is there. And, associate with devotees and ask devotees and confide in devotees and ask them to help. So these are different ways in which we can do that. But Srila Rupa Goswami said, now listen to this, that if he could somehow get millions of ears and tongues, then he could relish spiritual bliss by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If he could somehow get millions of ears and tongues, So that is a wonderful state. There is really nothing uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he is situated in everyone's heart and that he helps the living entity forget and remember. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee gets inspiration. And then as Prabhupada goes on to say, Tesham Sutatayottanam Bhajatam Pitikapurvagam Dadami Buddhiyugam Tom Yenamam Bhapiyantite. So he's in there inspiring us, to those who are constantly devoted to worship me with love, I give the understanding. So this process is about this constantly engaging with love. And those who engage in auspicious activities and devotional service are guided by the Super Soul. If anyone wants to read that purport, it is the devotee experience increased transcendental bliss in the execution of his devotional service. So it goes back to that thing about the gold and the diamond. We enter into a different category if we can somehow or other perform devotional service to Krishna. We just take on a gold-like character, despite, as all of us, I'm sure we realize our backgrounds and where we're coming from, and from the material world for millions of lifetimes. But we do have this ability to become gold-like, and if we do, then we have this ability to feel devotional service ever increasing, fresh and new in all activities. And Srila Prabhupada also said out about his managers that the managers should always be creating new and fresh challenges for the devotees, so that they can actually engage in spiritual life, and it is actually to root. He actually deliberately said that to root out stagnation, because that is the tendency to be, okay, things are okay, or it's going okay, or whatever. There's a tendency for that. So if it's not going on, then we just have to examine why it's not going on. But as I said, everyone has to do that individually and understand, and they have to take responsibility for why it's not going on. It's not that they can, say, oh, it's not going on because you, and you. It's not going on because me, and me. And therefore, then we can actually address the situation. And if all of us are working in that way, then we can actually help each other, and we can actually make progress together by cooperating to keep this movement together, which is Prabhupada's Mahavakya instruction. So I thought I'd also see about, let me see the time. I'm probably just going to stop a little bit early today. I've got a couple of things I have to do, but there's so many other, I'm sure everyone else has got things to do too. There's so many other comments there as well. There's so many things I could talk about. The Krishna consciousness movement is to give association of pure devotees. The Krishna consciousness movement is for creating Vaikuntha, which is no anxiety. There's an amazing purport in page 838 of this Bhagavatam, the fourth, 430, 28, where Prabhupada talks about increasing the influence of his devotees, because Krishna just wants to get in the heart of a devotee who's pure, so that he can increase Krishna acts through his devotees, and he wants to get into the hearts of his devotees so that he can increase the amount of devotees who are performing devotional service. That's what he wants to do. He acts through his devotees. Krishna's there on the battlefield, like all those people that are there in his family. Krishna is a family member of all of those, but he's also beyond any of that, and they all have different reciprocations with Krishna. But he is acting through his devotees to bring people closer to Krishna. So, okay, so I'm going to stop there, and I'm not sure if anyone wants to ask anything, anyone wants to make any comments, any questions, or whatever. Go ahead. I'll just give a little bit of time for that in case anyone wants to write anything. I'm not sure they do. And in the meantime, I will read this amazing part of a purport about how Krishna wants to increase the love of his devotees. So, again and again, the Lord is very much interested in increasing the influence of his devotees. Therefore, he is described herein as Prabhave Sarva Sattvatam. The Sattva community is a community of Vaishnavas, pure devotees of the Lord. The Supreme Personality has unlimited powers, and he wants to see that his devotees are also entrusted with unlimited powers. A devotee of the Lord is always, therefore, distinguished from other living entities. The word Hari means one who takes away all miserable conditions. And Hari Medasha means that the Lord is always planning ways to deliver the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. The Lord is so kind that he personally incarnates to deliver the conditioned souls, and whenever he comes, he makes his plans. Paritranaya sadinam vinashaya saduskritam dharma sangstarpanarpatayad sambhavami yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I invent millennium after millennium. Since the Lord delivers all conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya, he is known as Hari Meda. So, finally, the message for today is, try as much as possible to become one of those souls who is able to help Krishna expand the Krishna consciousness movement. And sorry, is there any comments?
Sri Rupa asks, she says, Hare Krishna Manu Prabhu, if we find ourselves stagnated, what's the one thing we can do immediately to get out of it? Hare Krishna.
Sri Rupa Prabhu's question is, if we find ourselves stagnated, what is the one thing we can do to get ourselves out of it?
To immediately get out of it.
To immediately get out of it. If I knew that, I wouldn't be stagnated so much. I've heard some devotees explain that the routine is very good. Routine in Krishna consciousness. Go to bed early, get up early, chant Hare Krishna, read. There's one section I was going to relate to there as well, but it's about in the association of devotees. It talks about getting the association of one devotee is what we need, a pure devotee. To come in contact with a pure devotee is unbelievably powerful. And that, I'll give you the example. When I was coming we do a reading every Monday night, and I was on my way to the reading. I was just driving home, but I was thinking of what I was going to eat. I wasn't thinking of being serving Krishna. What I can do to serve Krishna. My mind was completely, absorbed in that. Well, not completely, but you know what I mean. It wasn't thinking of how can I serve Krishna. I was thinking, how can I serve my stomach? And I made this point later to the devotees that when we got actually reading, there was my whole vision started to think differently. I started to think about, hearing about Krishna and Krishna within the heart, because Krishna cleanses from within the desires, Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, for one who is, wants to actually, who has developed the taste to hear and chant about him. Krishna cleanses from within the material desires. So the material desires, of course, are dictated to by the mind. That was the point I was making earlier. The mind just wants to keep on throwing up. That was brilliant, isn't it? The mind just wants to keep on throwing up. throwing up so many different things, and so, you know, we're trying to act with it with a pure heart. So my first answer, and the one that I actually I try to take shelter in myself, is to hear, you know, and you know, hear as much as possible, and also to take shelter in different devotees who I know will listen to me, basically, and will accept what I'm saying, and will try to also just bring me out of that situation. That's what the association of devotees is very, very powerful, actually, and that's what we're trying to create, the whole association of devotees, so that so we can get relief. So and this is what we do in the association of the devotees, is that we hear about Krishna's pastimes, and in one of these purports, Prabhupada explains that even if we're impure, like I was talking about going to this reading session, that even for the time that we're in this hearing situation, we can get relief and we can get out of the material world. That's the Prabhupada puts it actually in that. It's 852, 854 in this book, in the fourth. Prabhupada explains that, you know, we can actually go beyond that. So constant tesham satata, you know, satata yuktanam. I'm kind of answering it in more of a longer term. It's to be constant. In other words, we have to stop ourselves from getting into the stagnation. We have to be constantly aware that this stagnation is going to happen, that the mind is going to come. So we have to be expertly at using the armed with yoga, stand and fight. We should have to armed the minute it comes up. We have to be expert. Now we're not expert. You know, we're not pure devotees. So, you know, we create problems because of ourselves. You know, so it's unfortunate. But as I said, this is why we're in this movement, is to become trained up. We have to become super expert fighters, armed at yoga, stand and fight. So our determination has to be unbreakable, held steadfast by yoga practice. You know, we have to surrender to a pure devotee. We've got to serve the pure devotee. We have to find a pure devotee to do that. We have to associate with the devotees as well. You know, even if they're not pure devotees, we're not. You can see them as pure devotees, and because of that reciprocation, we can act on the pure devotee platform as well, if we can develop that association. That's what Prabhupada wanted us to do. He wanted us to give shelter to everybody else. So we actually also have to become shelter. So we've got to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves down, and start again. You know, if we fail, if we're in stagnation, don't let it last too long. You know, just pick ourselves up, dust ourselves down, hear like anything, and talk to the devotees you'd love and trust, and become a devotee who people can love and trust as well. That's also important. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful question, and for your example as well. So is that everything?
And Sri Rupa says, thank you, Prabhu. That's so wonderfully consistent hearing. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you.
Or is it hearing Hare Krishna?
Yeah, and just in that purport, chanting, you know, the way that was explained in chanting, Prabhupada was talking about chanting there, how Rupa Goswami wants millions and millions of... Sorry, I'll just make one last point. That is why at the end of life, a lot of devotees, Prabhupada talked about it, is that, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they went into that other world, you know. They didn't want to sort of come out of that world. They just wanted to stay in that other world so that they could concentrate and not to be distracted by all kind of the different things that can from this world, you know. Jivan Mukta sa uchate. Yeah, we have to try to be devotees in this world because we're meant to be on the spiritual platform. But at the end, you know, sometimes all this stuff has to stop from this world because it's not a place of enjoyment. It's a place of misery, you know. So, you know, it's only going to throw up misery. Again, using the word throw up. So we got to forget about the mind throwing up and the misery that's thrown up by this material world. So on that very positive note, say Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for listening. All glories to Shri